Good afternoon. Welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner. Taheshah Moise and Eric Chilton are here working from home this afternoon. We are so glad you are joining us. Of course, this is a show where we like to keep you updated and connected on what's going on in your world. So join our conversation online. We are live on WFMY News 2's Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And we'll start off this Monday afternoon with your 4 to 5 roundup. A federal judge ruled against a City of Graham ordinance involving protest permits. Under the ordinance, a group of protesters has to get a permit from the police chief at least 24 hours before a protest. But the judge's decision temporarily stops that rule from taking effect until a full hearing takes place. The decision comes from a lawsuit against city leaders that says the ordinance violates freedom of speech. The city says the goal is to keep gatherings peaceful as tensions rise around that Confederate monument outside of the Graham courthouse. That restraining order is in effect for the next 14 days. The next hearing is scheduled for July 20th at 9 a.m.
Multiple statues were damaged around the nation during the holiday weekend. In Rochester, New York, the statue of abolitionist Frederick Douglass was torn from the base. And then over in Maryland, protesters used ropes to tear down a Christopher Columbus statue. Protesters then threw that monument into a nearby harbor. Since the death of George Floyd, hundreds of statues have been either vandalized or torn down, including here in North Carolina. Governor Roy Cooper ordered a Confederate monument in Raleigh to be taken down for public safety.
Well, a city in Ohio says it wants to be a statue sanctuary city. According to Newsweek, the city manager signed an official proclamation creating a safe space for statues of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, Ulysses S. Grant, Patrick Henry, Francis Scott Key, Theodore Roosevelt, and Christopher Columbus. Newton Falls would establish a place for statues sent from around the nation. Let's dig into some more headlines this afternoon. The Supreme Court has ruled unanimously that states can require presidential electors to vote for the candidate who won the popular vote in their state. 32 states and the District of Columbia already bind electors to vote for the popular vote winner, and electors almost always do anyway. So-called faithless electors have not been critical to the outcome of a presidential election, but that could change in a race decided by just a few electoral votes. It takes 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. Two large energy companies say the Atlantic Coast Pipeline is no longer happening. Duke Energy and Dominion Energy made that announcement on Sunday, citing ongoing delays and increasing cost uncertainty. The project would bring natural gas from West Virginia to growing markets in Virginia and North Carolina. The project was more than 3 years behind schedule, and its original price tag had nearly doubled to $8 billion. An attorney for the family of missing Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Gian says Army investigators have positively identified her remains more than 2 months after she disappeared. According to court records, Specialist Aaron Robinson beat her to death with a hammer at Fort Hood. Her family says it was after she told Robinson she would report him for sexual harassment. Robinson's girlfriend, Cecily Aguilar, is accused of helping him dismember and hide Jillian's body. The Army says Robinson died by suicide last week as officers tried to arrest him. And an 8-year-old was shot and killed during a night of violence across metro Atlanta. The shooting happened last night in the same area as the shooting death of Rayshard Brooks last month. Police say Sequoia Turner was in a car with her mom and an adult friend. The driver tried to go into a parking lot, and they were confronted by a group of armed men illegally blocking the entrance. Police say someone in that group fired at the car multiple times. Turner died at the hospital.
It was another record high in North Carolina for the number of hospitalizations. The state is now reporting nearly 1,000 cases of people in the hospital, with up to 81% of hospitals reporting their data. And we do have more than 1,500 new coronavirus cases statewide. But the good news is the death rate is slowing down. There have been more than 74,000 cases since the start of the pandemic, but more than 55,000 people have recovered.
A number of Greensboro police officers tested positive for coronavirus. According to officials, 5 officers and 2 employees are home and doing fine after they tested positive. The department is now following CDC guidelines to lower the risk of spread to other employees. They asked anyone who came into contact with those employees to go ahead and take a test. But LabCorp says it could take a bit longer to get your coronavirus test results back. The company says their turnaround time is usually 1 to 2 days. But in recent weeks, they've seen an increase in demand for testing. LabCorp says they're trying to deliver results in a timely manner, but it could be an additional 1 to 2 days longer. They are working to increase testing capacity now from 130,000 tests to 150,000 tests by mid-July.
4 Greensboro art groups are getting help from the CARES Act. Dance Projects Incorporated, North Carolina Folk Festival, Triad Stage, and Arts Greensboro are among the more than 800 groups receiving aid. The groups will each get $50,000 to cover staff salaries, artist or contract fees, and facility costs.
Trending news in the sports world today, the Cleveland Indians are considering a new name. That is according to manager Terry Francona. Now, Francona says that it's a conversation that he and the front office have actually had for years, and the Indians have had that name, in case you're wondering, since 1915. Stories used to say that the name honored Native American Louis Sockalexis of National League's Cleveland Spiders back in the day, but Francona says the team never wanted to be disrespectful, but he goes on to say that's not a strong enough reason for keeping that name in this environment.
Well, the Washington Redskins are also considering a name change. The team announced that they were thinking about changing their name after top sponsors pushed for it. Now, current owner Dan Snyder said in the past that it would never happen, but a lot of you are reacting to news that they are considering changing the name. We'll take a look now at a few of your comments. Dan Allwine said, with the name change of Redskins, Indians, Seminoles, and the rest, I will never reflect or think of them. I would think it's an honor, but that's just my opinion. We should just take all names and cities and only use the city names, and then no one can have an objection. Bill Miller Jr. said change the Washington too, since they play in Maryland and the team headquarters is in Virginia. They are anything but Washington. Brandon Lake Martin said, seriously, people, it's not that hard. Let the tribes decide if it should be changed and then let them pick the name and the logo. And David M.Y. Jr. said, good, that name is derogatory, and I'm a fan of this team at least twice a year. So we will see what comes of that. But yes, they said last week that they are definitely looking into this. Now head coach Ron Rivera made a statement about it. So I think we will see a name change from the Washington Redskins. Of course, unclear what that will be just yet. Chilton?
Kind of like the idea of talking to the Native Americans and letting them kind of come up with their ideas and see what they think about it. That's not a bad idea. Then take that, combine that with a marketing team, because I know they'll want to have a say-so in the logo and that type of thing, and everybody's happy.
Especially now that we're seeing this trend take off across the nation, not just in Washington, but also in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I think now is a good time as any, Maddie and Eric, to be having these conversations. And yes, let's go to the Native American tribes and see what they think. In the past, of course, this has been seen as a derogatory term, and I know for some people it's just a name, but if that's a name that offends an entire group of people in America, then why have it?
Never hurts to ask for input. All right, Christian Morgan, it's a hot day out there.
Yeah, it is, guys, and that heat is going to stick around, but even more so, the humidity is going to stick around, and it's only going to go up from here. Temperature-wise right now, we're in the upper 80s, close to 90 in some spots, and we're watching to see if we will hit 90 yet again. That would be 5 out of 6 days in July that we've been in the 90s. Remember when we couldn't hardly get a 90-degree day? Well, seems that that has now changed. Most of us are dry across the area today as well. Just some shower and storm activity to our south, which is mainly where it's going to stay. So tonight, partly cloudy skies. It'll still be muggy. Temperatures in the lower 70s. And for your Tuesday, another day at 90 degrees, partly cloudy skies. And actually, check that. We won't get quite up to 90 degrees. We'll be in the mid 80s tomorrow, and we will have a better chance to get some scattered showers and some thunderstorms. But the humidity is only going to go up from here. It's going to be a very humid week as we go throughout. And part of the reason is this little spinny thing that you see on this visible satellite image just over Georgia. We'll talk about what that is and what it means for our weather as we go through the course of this week. Coming up on your 4 to 5.
Before we head to break, we want to honor the life of country music star Charlie Daniels. The Wilmington native, well known for The Devil Went Down to Georgia, has died. A publicist says the Country Music Hall of Famer died in a hospital after he suffered a stroke. Now, by the 1970s, the Charlie Daniels Band was going on tour, sometimes doing up to 250 shows a year. He was known for bold lyrics in songs like Simple Man and In America, and The Devil Went Down to Georgia, of course, was #1 on country charts in 1979. Daniels was 83 years old. We'll be back.
So recently, NASCAR driver Corey LaJoie has driven his number 32 car with a new paint scheme on it, and the car had been wrapped in logos that were promoting President Trump in 2020. So obviously, this gets a lot of people talking, since at times the president can be a polarizing figure. But in fact, some people were actually posting on social media expressing their laughter, actually, when the number 32 had a little bump up in pit road just 16 laps into the Brickyard 400. So I asked you on Facebook, do you agree with political endorsements being put on race cars? And some people were really divided on this one. David Lewis says, I don't have a problem with it, but I think NASCAR and team owners might consider whether they are alienating people by doing it. I'd say the same for any other sponsorship. You have to consider what the impact to your brand is. Lakia says, can't we just unite over a sport and not have it ruined by partisanship? Lynn Pugh Fall says, no, I think all sports should be free of politics, but alas, she says. MD Moore says, it's their car, so I suppose they can, but I would think there's a possibility of alienating half of the fan base. And then Alan Wright argues it is not necessarily an endorsement, it's a sponsorship, i.e., advertising. And that is something to consider, because I was looking online, so don't quote me on this, who knows what the internet comes up with, but I saw several stories that said that it was about $350,000 that a PAC, a political action committee, a PAC, paid to have that on there. So the race car teams, they do put that out, as that space is valuable, and it is an ad, not necessarily an endorsement. I think we have to look at it that way.
That's a good point, Eric. Of course, someone paid to have that put on the car, but I'm with some of the people who commented on your Facebook page that when you do accept that advertisement, you do choose to paint your car like that, you have to accept that not everyone is going to agree with any of the advertisers that may buy some space. Taheshah, what are your thoughts about this?
Working here, right? If that's what the PAC wanted when they paid for this advertisement, and we're creating a stir here. So I think that's probably in their interest. That's what they wanted. Personally, I don't agree with the decision. I think that maybe cars isn't the best place because then what you will end up having, okay, one person has one side. Well, is there going to be another car that has the other side? If it's just one, then I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily fair to both sides who are running for president. All right, let's move on to another story making headlines. It's President Trump tweeting about Bubba Wallace today. Now, the president asked in a tweet today saying if Wallace had apologized to all the drivers and the supporters that were involved in this noose investigation. Now, he called the situation a hoax and said the investigation and NASCAR's decision to ban the Confederate flags at speedways has caused low ratings. Now, Bubba Wallace tweeted a note to the next generation, and he specifically was addressing President Trump's tweet. Wallace said, in short, people will test you to see if they can knock you off your pedestal. He said, always deal with hate with love, quote, even when it's hate from the President of the United States, ending his tweet with love wins. Now, if you remember, the FBI concluded that the noose that was found in Wallace's garage was not the result of a hate crime. The noose was a result of a rope that was used to operate a garage door and had been there since October. Wallace said he was relieved it wasn't a hate crime, but the rope was still tied in a noose shape, in his opinion. Now, since the president's tweet, driver Jimmy Johnson has tweeted his support for Wallace, posting number 43 with the hashtag I stand with Bubba. And NASCAR just released a statement saying, quote, we are proud to have Bubba Wallace in the NASCAR family, and we commend his courage and leadership. NASCAR continues to stand tall with Bubba, our competitors, and everyone who makes our sport welcoming and inclusive for all racing fans. More of the 4 to 5 when we come back.
the story that I'm going to show you today has two separate angles. So imagine you're wanting to start this business for a long time. You do so, but you do it just as the pandemic erupted. And you can't get stimulus money because they say you're in a loophole and they say you're too new to get money. That's exactly what happened to Whitney Brockman. And I spoke with her this morning about that and what her new business, which is called Neighborhood Bar, that's BARRE, is all about. Take a look.
Whitney, thanks for being with us today. Boy, these are tough times for businesses that are just starting up, and your story was a little bit on the unique side. Tell me what happened when you first decided to open your neighborhood bar.
Well, we had a great plan. We had some soft opening events planned, and we were literally 2 days into that soft opening week when we decided to close our doors due to safety precautions on March 17th. And the very next day, we basically went online. So a little bit of a different plan, but that's what happened. So along with probably every business out there, I submitted an application to receive some relief, and was told that because I was too new, I missed the cutoff, that it was a loophole with the program, but I didn't qualify. So I called another bank, that was through our business banker. I called another couple of banks and basically was told the same thing. So it was a loophole, and they basically told me all the best to you. And so just kind of picked myself up and kept going.
You're in this wide diamond shape, and your hips are tucking under to protect your back.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what you have to do with this kind of stuff too. So let's talk a little bit about what you are doing right now. How is it going for you now, and what do you expect to happen once they kind of open the doors?
Almost the next day, we were on Facebook Live in our Facebook group page. And then the next week, we decided to move over to Zoom because it offers a two-way interaction experience. And that's been a really great opportunity for us to not only meet our clients in person, but offer them that in-person interaction that everyone's craving right now. We have anything from a 30-minute class to a 45-minute class. We have a HIT class. We even have an advanced bar class for those who have been taking bar for years. And then soon, the Neighborhood Bar Greensboro studio will be offering an in-person outdoor class series, and that will be starting later this week.
I don't know if I can get my leg up that high, but I will give it a shot, Whitney. I appreciate you taking time out today. Best of luck to you.
Bad visual. Sorry about that. I will tell you this. So my heart broke for them because I just thought, you want to live this dream, that's your dream business, and then just when you do it, a pandemic breaks out. So they're really victims of bad timing. If you want to check out Neighborhood Bar, great workout facility, and Whitney does a great job. Check out their website. I've linked you to it on this article. It'll be on WFMYnews2.com after the show and on my Facebook page as well. We're coming right back.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. You'll want to hear this story. 3 siblings from Washington, D.C. started their own candle making business, but it was to raise money for Nerf guns and video games. Colin, Ryan, and Austin Gill were all younger than 15 when they asked their parents for some money after they spent all of their allowances. So they did some research and they found some successful businesses, and candles were actually the top choice. They now make and sell 100% soy wax candles from their house, and each brother has a specialty. So Ryan is the scent master, Austin wicks the candles, and then Colin labels them. The company started in 2017. It's now expanded to room sprays, diffusers, bath salts, and hand sanitizers. And now that they're older, instead of Nerf guns and video games, they are saving to buy cars. So they have a vision here, Eric. I can see your kids getting into something like this.
Yes. You know, and my youngest, who is 7 years old, she decided she wanted a Polaroid camera like in the old days, and they still make them. I didn't even know that. And she had to save up $100, and it took her about 4 months at 7 years old, but she did it, and she was very proud of herself. So good for them.
Drew is always just looking for the next business venture. I remember she did a lemonade stand. She was selling snacks. She was selling old toys. That girl has a vision.
I love it.
Yeah, all of them have a vision, and I feel like I'm just lacking as an adult here. I mean, I feel like I need a side hustle on top of my main job here. But so glad to see those kids just doing something productive, especially in the summertime. You know, there's a lot of cartoons to be watched, but these folks are saying there's a lot of money to be made this summer, and they're doing it one candle at a time.
That was me as a kid. I was ready to get a job by the time I was 9 years old. I was like, where's that paycheck? Let's get this going. I'll work for it. Christian Morgan, you have a busy summer job keeping track of this hot weather and the humidity.
Yes, and it is that. It is very humid. Temperatures are going to go back to the mid-80s for a good chunk of the week, but notice this little spinny thing. You can see that throwing some clouds up into the southern portions of the Piedmont, but the center of that low pressure system is right over Georgia right now, and it does have about a 40% chance of becoming something tropical throughout the week. Regardless of what it does, it's going to track to the northeast just off the coast of North Carolina. What's that going to do? Well, it's not only going to add moisture to the mix, it keeps us humid, and it also increases our rain chances, especially for tomorrow and Wednesday, looking like our wettest days. Temperatures across the area right now in the upper 80s, close to 90 in some spots, but we are dry. The shower and storm activity as well to our south, where it looks to stay. We'll get a better chance of that tomorrow. Take a look at your full 7-day forecast coming up on the 4 to 5.
Hey, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie, they forever go together.
Mic check 1 2. Can you hear me all right? All right, hold on. Yes, mic check 1 2 3 4. I'll be standing here. We're live.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner here with Eric Tilton and Taheshah Moise, who are working from home this afternoon. We are so happy you are joining us. Remember, this is an interactive news show where we want you to chat back with us. That's why we live stream on WFMY News 2's Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And let me tell you, the best way for us to see your comment is by using our hashtag 4 to 5. We'll begin this half hour with your 4 to 5 roundup. Police in California are looking for a man and a woman who vandalized a Black Lives Matter mural on the 4th of July. You can see in the video it was taken in Martinez near San Francisco. It shows a woman painting over the mural in black paint while a man speaks to a crowd of onlookers. The man called racism, quote, a leftist lie, according to the video. The woman, after swearing at onlookers, was then heard saying, "This is not happening in my town." The police department was called to the damage, and then they called the damage divisive and hurtful. The two people in the video were gone by the time law enforcement arrived. Jeffrey Epstein's longtime confidant, Ghislaine Maxwell, is now being held at a detention center in Brooklyn. She was transferred to New York to face charges that she recruited women and girls for him to sexually abuse. Prosecutors are asking for Maxwell to appear in court in Manhattan on Friday. She has denied wrongdoing and called claims against her absolute rubbish. 3 of the 4 former officers charged in George Floyd's death are now out on bond. Tao Thao posted bond on late Saturday morning. 2 of the other former officers, Thomas Lane and J. Alexander Queuing, were released last month. All 3 posted $750,000 bonds. The only officer who is still behind bars is Derek Chauvin, who was caught on camera kneeling on Floyd's neck. His bond is set at $1 million. The American Red Cross says there is a great need for blood donations. Because of COVID-19, fewer businesses are hosting blood drives, and with more surgeries happening again, the need for blood is increasing. The Red Cross is hoping that more businesses will host drives again, and they add that they're implementing some safety precautions. They're going to test temperatures of people who want to donate.
States around the nation are under a mandatory face mask order, but some of those leaders in those states are getting pushback for the decision. Many are claiming that that rule is unconstitutional. Well, our Verify team determined no, it does not violate your constitutional right. And here's why we're saying that. Our sources are the University of Maine constitutional law professor and a Cumberland County district attorney and disability rights lawyer. Now, that team says that the 14th Amendment, which protects civil rights of anyone born or naturalized in the United States, is the most cited constitutional right. Well, the constitutional law professor says that argument would not hold up in court based on previous cases. He adds that the government has some leeway to protect public safety and health.
High, a school located in Guilford County. You can see behind me, there's really not much going on here, nothing to look at. Actually a dead zone here on the football field, and that's because schools within Guilford and Forsyth County have delayed their summer workouts until July 20th, but the same cannot be said for other counties in our viewing area, including Davidson. Now, the Oak Grove football team returned to the practice field for the first time in a very long time, although they took every step to make sure they were doing it in a safe fashion. Temperature checks for every student athlete once they arrived, proper social distancing, you name it. And July 6th was a date Davidson County had marked on their calendar for quite a while now.
We had made the decision back in June to postpone until July 6th because we didn't feel ready then as far as ordering all of the personal protective equipment and making sure our athletic directors and coaches were well planned and prepared for meeting the guidelines established by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. The common message was we're ready.
The biggest thing we have to do right now is teaching. You know, we lined up our kids in cones and said, this is what 6 feet looks like. So this is where we got to live at for a while so that we can play in the fall. I think that's the biggest thing, and so we can get back into school because these kids, we need these kids, and they need us.
And coming up at 6, we will hear from an athletic trainer on how to properly and safely return to workouts, all while preventing the spread of COVID-19.
Luke, thank you. Well, Major League Baseball fans are waiting for the league's schedule to be announced sometime today. Each team is going to play 60 games, and the New York Yankees and Washington Nationals look to be first up. The San Francisco Giants will then take their swing against the LA Dodgers on July 23rd. The other 26 teams will start their season the next day on July 24th.
And taking a look outside weather-wise, it is a hot and humid day, near 90 again, but for the most part we're dry. Most of the shower and storm activity is to our south and to our east, and that's where it will stay, but we are watching this area of low pressure, an upper level low, centered right over Georgia right now, and it does have about a 40% chance of turning into something tropical over the course of the week. Now, it is going to track to the northeast, so whether or not it becomes tropical, regardless, our rain chances are going to go up. It's going to push in warm air, it's going to push in humid air, and also provide enough moisture for our rain chances to go up a little bit for tomorrow afternoon, but a better chance as we head through the middle of the week. Tonight, still going to be muggy, temperatures dropping down into the lower 70s, and here's your planner for your Tuesday. Again, it is going to be a bit cooler, only in the mid-80s tomorrow. It's still going to be humid. It'll be a day with more clouds than sun and some scattered rain and some storms in the afternoon that we'll keep our eyes on the radar for.
While you can still attend in-person church services in California, you cannot sing. In an effort to curb the worsening pandemic, the state has temporarily banned singing and chanting in places of worship. The CDC says shouting or singing can spread the coronavirus just as easily as coughing or sneezing. And Governor Gavin Newsom says activities such as singing and chanting negate the risk reduction achieved through 6 feet of physical distancing. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this change and ask you to chime in on this conversation on my Facebook page today. So let's get into some of the comments. Kareen says, of course, I agree. If it can help one person, that is what God wants us to do. Church has nothing to do with the fact that you are in a building. Church and faith are in your heart. Yes, the time you spend with others is great, but lives matter more. Jolie Meyer says, can't you sing with a mask on? And Debbie says, I normally avoid conspiracy theories. I'm very pro-mask. However, this seems sinister. And Melissa says, this is defeating the purpose of worship, which is to get your praise on by making a joyful noise unto the Lord. Might as well do a live stream of the minister from home with recorded music from previous congregation services pre-COVID-19 and use the technology that allows participation input by the members viewing the live stream at home, including singing and chanting. And Melissa brings up a good point. For those churches that need to abide by Governor Newsom's order, Maddie, saying that, they can play some of those songs that were recorded in the past, still getting some of the worship if you're watching at home, and keeping safe and following that order as well.
Floating around that list activities based on how high risk they are, and singing and chanting is high risk because those droplets, it sounds gross, but those droplets are coming out more often when you're singing, and when you're near people that can be dangerous for the spread of COVID-19. I like what that first commenter said, that church it doesn't matter if you're in a building or not, and I'm glad to see many churches were able to do those online services and still include worship as far as it goes here in North Carolina. We haven't seen anything like this. Again, this is in California, but I am glad that here at home we're getting to go to church, even if it is in our living room.
April 15th, it came, it went, and July 15th became the new tax day. So what are the chances that this tax day gets extended? Zero, nada, not gonna happen, which is why I want to see where you are in the process. Maddie, where are you in the process?
So it's funny you should ask, because I got finished up this week. Everything is sent back to the state and federal government.
Okay.
But I did take that extension, Tanya.
Okay. So I'm asking folks, where are they in the process when it comes to taxes? This is my Twitter poll here. You can find it quickly by searching Tanya Rivera on 2. And I asked you, have you filed and gotten your refund? Filed and you're waiting? Maybe you wait to file until the 15th every single year. Or maybe you thought that COVID canceled tax day. I gotta tell you, that's a big no.
If for any reason you cannot file your tax return by July the 15th. You can by all means ask for an extension. An extension to file is an extension to file, not an extension to pay.
Yeah, that's a big difference, not an extension to pay. So tonight at 5, I have resources for you on how you can file your taxes for free online, how you can file that extension, also what to look for in a virtual tax appointment with a preparer. Hey, don't miss this coming up at 5:30. How do you physically and mentally prepare for the kids to go back to school no matter what shape or form it's going to be in? Cone Health experts are in to take your questions. Text us your questions, 336-379-5775.
All right, I am talking about why you should still do the right thing, even if you don't believe in it, because it can help save others. Because it can help save others.
Oh, what is...
Hey, mic check 1 2 3 4. Am I back or am I not back? That is the question. 1 1 2 2 3 3. Oh man. That's so frustrating. Check 1 2 3. Hmm.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. So we are in the middle of a pandemic, of course, but many people still found a way to celebrate the 4th of July. As you can see in this video, there were big crowds of people on beaches throughout the nation. Most were not wearing masks, some not even adhering to the social distancing rules, stay 6 feet away from each other. So many people didn't necessarily a few recommendations from the CDC, and that's what Blanca Cobb and I are going to talk about today. Following some rules, even though you don't agree with them. Blanca, why, in your opinion, do you think people are resisting those safety guidelines?
There are some people who just don't believe in the coronavirus. They don't believe that it's deadly, or they don't believe that it can hurt anyone. They don't think that the safeguards are very helpful, whether you need to stand 6 feet away from somebody or not be in large groups of people or even wear masks. And there are some people who just don't want to be told what to do.
So should people still follow those safety suggestions? You talk about wearing masks and social distancing, even if they don't agree with them?
Absolutely, because their decision doesn't only impact themselves, but it impacts everybody else. So let me give you an example. We all know that smoking isn't good for you, but there are some people who will still choose to smoke, even though their doctors have told them that it increases the chance of lung cancer, of mouth cancer, and emphysema. So that they're hurting themselves. However, when smokers go into public places and that secondhand smoke can hurt other people's health, that's when there was a ban on smoking in a lot of public places or designated areas for smokers. It's the same thing with the coronavirus. So whether you believe in it or not, or whether you think it's going to impact you or not, it can still impact other people. So making that decision to protect other people is very respectful and mindful of safety.
Interesting comparison there, Blanca. So if someone does give in, even though they don't agree with it, but they follow these guidelines, what does that say about their belief system?
It doesn't say anything about their belief system. They can believe what they want to believe. Some people think, oh, I'm selling out, or it's negating what I'm thinking. No, it isn't. You're just being mindful. You're being respectful of other people's health. And that's what it boils down to. It isn't a personal issue. It's more a societal issue. It's keeping everybody safe. It shows respect, and it shows that you're putting other people first.
Blanca, thank you so much. As always, you can continue the conversation with Blanca on her Facebook page. Just search for Blanca Kopp, body language expert, if you want to continue that conversation with Blanca. Taheshah, some interesting points that Blanca brought up there, comparing secondhand smoke to the coronavirus. Just because you decide to take action, it might be putting other people at risk.
Yeah, Maddie, that was the thing that stuck out to me the most, because, you know, I've been having conversations with people who believe one thing and people who believe another. And I think the smoking argument is a way that can kind of just put it into perspective into today's terms. So I'm glad that we do have someone like Blanca that can break that down for us. But you know what? This is not going to be the only time that we're having this conversation. I mean, as long as COVID is around, there are going to be people that feel either one way or the other, Maddie.
Right, absolutely. I think the best thing to do is just find sources that you know are giving you factual information about this. Go directly to the source. Don't necessarily believe everything that you see, especially on the internet, and find the facts for this. That's what always just puts everything into perspective for me. All right, more of the 4 to 5 coming up after this. Stick around.
We'll try this again. I completely rebooted my cell phone this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hello, hello. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't know what that was. A lot of businesses have taken a hard hit during the pandemic, but there is one long-standing, really, institution in Stokes County that is doing just the opposite. They're actually doing well during this situation. Here's a discussion with the folks at Mitchell's Nursery.
Jim and Judy, thanks for taking time out for talking with us today. You know, it's funny when people talk about COVID and it's damaged so many businesses, but there are some businesses that actually have done well with this, and that's kind of what you guys have done. Talk about how it's changed your business once all this started.
Well, we had a little problem right there at Easter with the churches not coming on Sundays, but all of a sudden it just turned around. Persons trying to fix up those yards when they were home this spring. They had seen projects to do for years, they keep saying, but didn't have time. And with them at home this spring, they've had time to do it. So we've seen a real turnaround in the tree shrub selling as well as the greenhouse products.
You guys are, I mean, it's safe to say you're an institution in that area. Can you talk a little bit about the history of the company and how it all started?
My sister was going through some stuff for my parents' house. She found a nursery certificate for Mitchell's Flowers that was established in Raleigh in the mid-70s when Judy and I were in school studying horticulture. We started going to the farmers market at the state fairgrounds there in Raleigh.
We started out rooting and growing azaleas in the beginning. We gradually added other trees and shrubs, potted up bare root shrubs, and outgrew that spot and moved to the current location then in 1993.
Well, congratulations, guys. I think it's great that you guys are flourishing, and keep it going. We'll be up to visit soon.
I mean, you know, you think about it's nearly 5 decades they've been doing what they're doing, and they're doing it well, too. If you'd like to get in touch with them, we've linked you to their website. All you do is look for this story on WFMYnews2.com. We'll have it there after the show.
And let's take a look outside weather-wise. It's another hot day across the Triad in the upper 80s to near 90, but we officially did not quite get to 90. We got to 89 yet again, and we're dry across the area. That's mainly how we'll stay as we go through the evening hours. But as we head through the week, we are watching this upper-level low-pressure system centered over Georgia right now, and it looks to track northeast and just stay off the Carolina coast. As it does, it's going to keep our humidity around, bring our temperatures down a little bit, but that's because we'll have more clouds and a better chance for rain as well. The best chances for rain this week looking like tomorrow with some scattered rain showers and storms, and again on Wednesday. And then as our rain chances go down, our temperatures will go back up heading into the end of the week. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, still going to be muggy in the lower 70s, and tomorrow mid 80s for your Tuesday, a day with more with more clouds than sun. And of course, we'll keep our eyes on the radar for the afternoon hours, watching for some of those scattered showers and a few afternoon thunderstorms. They'll be very random, very scattered in nature. So temperatures in the mid 80s, our rain chances go up, but as our rain chances go down, we'll climb back up to 90 by the end of the week.
Coming up on WFMY News 2 at 5 o'clock, the Greensboro Police Department says multiple officers have tested positive for coronavirus. We are digging deeper into what the department is doing to prevent the spread of the virus to other employees next at 5. Hello, mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, mic check.
Let's do a real mic check. Sorry, I'm late. Where we go? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Mic check 1, 2. We were just moving the camera to, I know, yeah, giving you one. Mic check 1, 2, moving the camera to a different angle shot compared to the fork.
It all goes back to this Confederate monument behind me at the center of protest.
It's time for my 2 cents. This weekend, I joined the more than 500,000 people, according to Variety, who downloaded Disney Plus to watch Hamilton the musical. And yes, in case you were wondering, I did sing along the entire show. My fiance said he had more fun watching me than watching the show, so there's that. But I bring this up because after watching Hamilton, I browsed along in the catalog and ended up watching some old Disney shows and movies. And it put me in such a great mood. It brought me back to my childhood, and the nostalgia factor was not lost on me. I must say though, The Emperor's New Groove aged well, still hilarious. But it got me thinking about the power of nostalgia. There are studies out there that show nostalgia is good for your brain. Research has shown nostalgia can help us feel more optimistic about our futures when we're going through rough times, which many of us are right now due to COVID-19. So I say find something to reminisce about, a memory that just makes you feel good. You don't want to dwell too much on the past, of course, but I think we could all just use a quick dose of some warm and fuzzy feelings. Form your own opinion. That's just my 2 cents. That's your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts right now.